Yeah. So just to begin with, Jitendra, as our participants will also agree that the process of financial planning traditionally, if you see, involves planning for usual goals like children's education, children's marriage or retirement, etc. How different could be financial planning for children of special needs? Can you just give us some insights on that?
Yeah. So, see, traditional financial planning. Now, if we take financial planning process, so what we generally do, we identify financial goals and look at our requirements, and then we see that how we can save money to meet all our financial goals. Now, generally in a traditional planning, if I mention 3 or 4 financial goals, so when it's your retirement, you have children, so their education, their marriage. So largely the children's goal end up with the marriage of the children. Okay. Beyond that, it's only you, your spouse, and your retirement years. Right. So these and add on any other financial goals. Now, when so traditional planning would work this way. When it comes to special needs planning, uh, it's planning about 2 generations. A traditional planning, we are planning only one generation. After children marriage, it's me and my wife, and about our lifetime. When it comes to special needs planning, it's planning for 2 generations. So I have to plan for myself, my retirement years, my lifetime. Plus, addition to that, I have to plan for my special need kid, his her complete lifetime, which would probably go beyond my lifetime. Okay, so that's why I say it's planning for 2 generations. Now, traditional planning, special needs planning is additional to traditional planning. It's not or versus. Okay, it's always additional to traditional planning. Just to give you an example, now in traditional planning, as I said, when it comes to children planning, so we plan for children education and marriage, right? Here, it's not about children education marriage. If you have 2 children, one for one child, you'll have to plan for education and marriage. For second child, you will have to plan for say around 50 years of lifetime. 50 years, how expenses are going to be met, his lifetime care, right? So that's how that goals or planning with the special need kids, it's always additional to traditional planning. Similarly, when it comes to estate planning, now in traditional planning, estate planning is about will, power attorney, guardianship. But when it comes to special needs planning, there the estate planning starts with will, power attorney, and guardianship. There are a lot many other issues. Who's going to manage the child affairs, the residential living of the special need child, where he is going to reside, who's going to manage those affairs, what in what structure the affairs can be managed, whether a will is sufficient or whether we should form a private trust or any other structure. So all those issues needs to be addressed, right? This way, your special needs planning is always additional to traditional planning. So, and I always say that the need and the requirement of special needs children families is much higher than families within traditional planning.
Got that. Thank you. That brings me to the second question. What specific challenges do parents of special needs children typically face when it comes to financial planning, as per your observation?
See, one of the biggest challenges is surely the expenses. The expenses of special need kids are on a higher side. So there are medical expenses, there are living expenses, especially the medical expenses are on a higher side. During the minority, I would say, when the child is till 15 or 18 years of age, the expenses vary a lot and expenses are generally higher side. Parents has to take up therapies, parents has to take up, other aspects. And when we talk about medical expenses, we know what kind of an inflation we are catering to. These costs generally keep on increasing. Once the child reaches to a majority stage, some expenses might reduce, but then the living expenses are there, and some of the medical expenses are going to be there. Now the biggest problem, the challenges the families face is this expenses of special need kid almost takes 40 or 50% of the family budget.
Okay.
Now, when this takes a 40 or 50% of the family budget, we all understand with the kind of inflation we are living in, with the kind of expenses we have, managing household expenses becomes a real challenge.
Yeah. Mm.
And the also whatever has to be provided for special need kid, it has to be provided from my own pocket. When we talk about government benefits or other benefits, then those are not to an extent where they can really help families financially. So the biggest problem with when families face in financial planning is how to manage this ever growing expenses. And with these expenses, families do not come to a mindset where they think of planning it financially, because they are already living in a scenario where the expenses are sometimes for families the expenses go much more beyond the income.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so I think that's the biggest challenge the families facing today.
That brings me to the third question. You mentioned about higher expenses. Would that also imply that the emergency fund arrangement that this particular family would have to do, would be much higher than a traditionally that one would plan for?
See, for a special need children family, as I said earlier, the requirements are much higher.
Hmm.
Along with their own expenses. When I talking retirement expenses, they have to plan for a corpus for special need kid also. Okay, so in a retirement there are two kind of expenses, two kind of corpus we are talking about. One, my own retirement years, and second, adding it to the special need kid expenses. Similarly, emergency fund with a special need kid is always a higher requirement. In general, in a traditional family, we can take 4 to 6 months of expenses. Okay, that if something happens, income stop, then I should be able to manage my next 6 months expenses. With a special need kid, it's not only about 6 months expenses, it's about special need child expenses, which has to, family has to bear. And that's why with special need child expenses, the emergency fund requirement is going to be higher. I always think of, that in a traditional way, we might plan for 4 to 6 months, but with a special need kid, families should always plan for a 1 year emergency fund expenses. At least 1 year emergency fund should be there. You do not, you do not know about how, so if there is a job loss, you do not know when you are going to get a job, or there's some medical foreseen situation happens, then uh, family budget is fine, but special need kid expenses are also need to be managed.
Hmm. Hmm.
So emergency fund requirement is always higher, and I always plan for at least 1 year emergency fund expenses should be maintained.
That's a good insight. At least 1 year of emergency expenses to be maintained. Okay. Okay. My next question to you is that traditionally, when we nominate our kids for our investments, when we do our regular investments as per the financial plan, and we nominate kids, and if kids are minor, we usually appoint guardians. How different it is for special kids when we in their case, because we also need to think about beyond us. So how different would you plan guardianship for such kids?
Okay, so minority, it's largely the same as good as traditional planning, because when the child is minor, yes, he is he has unique requirements, right? But during minority, he's treated as a minor. Okay, so for guardianship also, when you are planning during minority, it's about who's going to be the next guardian if I'm not there, who's going to manage my child during minority. When it comes to majority, once the child becomes an adult, in legal standing, once you are an adult, okay, then you can take your own decisions. You do not need require a legal guardian. Parents are natural guardian till the minority of the child. They are no more a natural guardian when the child is a major. Okay, because then child is an adult. In the legal standing, an adult can take a decision on his own behalf. so he doesn't need that support. But with special need kid, that support is required. Now, to ensure or to manage the decisions on the child behalf, even the parents have to obtain the legal guardianship. So parent have to apply for a legal guardianship where they are authorized then to take a decision on child behalf. It can be decision about personal affairs, it can be decision about financial affairs, for any decision. So guardianship, the parents has to also obtain guardianship when the child turns 18, and they also have to think of that who is going to be the next line of guardian. That's where the biggest challenge today nuclear families are facing. Because see, in the older days, when you have a joint family, it is much easier to identify the next person. But with nuclear families and sometimes siblings going abroad, staying abroad, it becomes a challenge for a family to identify a next guardian who's going to be there for the lifelong support. And it's about guardianship for the lifelong support till the child is going to live. So once the child turns 18, then also the guardianship is required. The parent has to obtain the legal guardianship.
Right.
Sir, excuse me. Can I ask one question?
Can we
I'm
take it in
Saujanya.
the end? Can we take it in the end, please?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, that takes me to the next question. So typically, when we deal with the special key needs families, we are always talking about creating some kind of a trust, etc. Would you want to take that in right now in terms of what kind of a legal structure would you advise parents to do?
Okay. See, now that comes to the estate planning part. Now, estate planning, what options does parents have? First of all, it's not about only private trust. Parent has to identify that what options are there for managing my child affairs after my lifetime. One is appointing a legal guardian. Okay, so the legal guardian is going to manage legally he can manage the both financial and personal affairs. So what happens is that after parents' lifetime, all the assets bequeathed by the child and those assets are managed by the legal guardian, right? One option is that. Second option is probably if the child is going to reside in a residential care, okay, then the parents can bequeath the assets to the residential care and they take care of the child both financially, right? Third option is to leave it to some other member who might take care of the child financially and personally. The next option is the private trust. Create a structure like a private trust where the private trust is going to take care of the child financially for the lifetime. So the trust is going to manage all the financial affairs. Now a parent has to see which of these options is going to fit my requirement best. Parents, who can identify the layer of legal guardians, probably they can leave it to the legal guardian to manage the affairs. Okay. But when the parents cannot identify that, then separating out the financial and personal affairs is much more wiser. And when I say separating the financial affairs means you transfer the financial affair to the trust and leave the personal affair to the guardian. So forming a private trust becomes a good option in the sense that a private trust is an entity which remains till the child lifetime. Okay, so the trustees would be there to manage, but the private trust will remain. So this kind of a legal framework does well when you do not have many family members to think of layer of legal guardian to ensure that the 40-50 years of child lifetime would be taken care of.
Absolutely. So, which means that whenever you do the financial planning for such families, apart from the financial planning requirements, you also try to focus on the guardianship as well as the wills and trust formation, so that they are able to take care. They are filling all the gaps, right?
Yeah. So see, financial and as a special needs planning, you have to have a financial strategy which can identify both child and other family members requirement, and a legal strategy which can identify the legal framework, and then you have to integrate these two strategies to actually bring a complete special needs plan. So when a special need planning is done, these two strategies are addressed holistically and then they are integrated to bring a comprehensive special need plan.
Sure. Okay. Apart from the emergency funding, which we typically keep in very short-term instruments, which can be accessed at will whenever we require. Is there any difference in the investment plan that we would make for such families when it comes to long-term planning?
See, what happens, Stephen, before that, before you go towards an investment strategy, estimating the lifetime cost of childcare is very much important. Now, I have, with my experience, have found out that this is where the gap is, among the families. Families are not able to identify the lifetime cost of childcare separately.
Hmm.
Now, why I'm saying is, if you form a trust and you have to fund that trust, now what is the corpus you're going to fund with? How to identify that corpus? Because that corpus is going to take care of the child solely. Now, unless you identify that corpus, you cannot think of, whether the corpus which you are funding it is going to be enough for the child lifetime. And it's parent who has to provide this financially. If the corpus is less, nobody else is going to fund that trust. Okay, so that is one important aspect. Second is coming to investment planning. See, investment instruments are largely the same. We in India, we do not have yet any specific instrument for special need children. But investment strategy for special need child is a challenge because his requirement is lifelong. Okay, monthly regular expenses have to be met with some any lump sum expenses if come forward. How to plan that? That's where the biggest challenge for the families is. Now, in my view, what happens in traditional planning? What you do? You break down your goals into short term, medium term, and long term. Anything which is for next 3 years is a short term. 3 years to 7 years probably is a mid-term goal. Anything beyond 7 years is a long-term goal. And then you select an investment instrument. Special need children goals can also be done in the same manner. So expenses for the child for next 3 years becomes your short-term goal. Expenses from 3 years to 7 years becomes your medium-term goal. And 7 and 10 years beyond is become long-term goal. When you break down in this manner, then you are able to do a much wiser investment. Then you can choose your investment instrument. One strategy is that, and largely, we have been using this strategy quite a lot for retirees. We call it a bucket strategy, right? You prepare these buckets for special need child based on the expenses. Add on any expenses which might come. Say you want to do a modification of house after 7 years because the child is going to live in the same house. So it adds to your long-term goal. So this is how an investment strategy can be planned for special need kid goals.
And the bucket strategy also ensures that one part of the bucket is also taking care of inflation.
Yes, that is also important because you have to cater to inflation. Okay. And largely I say that if you can estimate that lifetime care cost, now you know very well how much money you require because you would have addressed inflation into that. Your investment strategy would be much more focused because your target goal is very clear that you have to accumulate so much money in the long term.
Right. Thank you. Would you want to throw light in terms of what will be the typical expenses that one family could incur when they would want to go for creating a trust?
Okay. See, a private trust, the creation of private trust, if I take formation and registration complete, I would say family have to set aside a corpus of say around 1 lakh of rupees. Okay. This would go in the initial formation of the trust. Yes, there would be then recurring cost for the trust, say, hiring a professional. You hire a CA for managing returns. You might hire a professional for managing investment. So those costs are bundled in the corpus which you build for the trust. Okay. But largely in the formation of a private trust, I would say at least 1 lakh of rupees should be set aside.
Okay. additional question on the trust. Two questions. One is how much time does it typically take to create a trust? That's one. Question number two is are there any tax implications or tax benefits that one can take into consideration while forming a trust?
So a private trust generally maximum I would say it can be done in 45 days, maximum a 2 month, because once you draft the trust deed, you have to draft a trust deed, then get it notarized or registered, and then you apply for a bank PAN card and bank account, and then your trust is functional. This complete process can be done maximum of 2 months also. Okay, so that's the time frame any family wants to form a trust that can take this time frame. Okay, what was the second question?
One was the time frame, and second was the tax benefits. Are there any? Is it treated as a separate tax entity?
Okay. Largely, it's not treated as a separate tax entity, because if we talk about structure of a trust, then it's a provision. It's a provision a family is creating. Okay, it's a arrangement. It's an arrangement which you create where a settler is there. He's identified certain people for managing certain amount of money which he's going to set aside for the beneficiary. Okay, so it's an arrangement, and that's why trust does not have its own income. So that's why there is no income tax of trust. Whatever income the trust generates is the income of the beneficiary. So trust is generally either taxed at maximum marginal rate or at the beneficiary level, depending on what is the structure of the trust.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. Okay. Would you want to put some light in terms of you would have handled several cases for parents of such special key needs families. Would you want to highlight any particular case study where you had a lot of challenges and you were able to give them a very good solution for the benefit of our participants?
Yes, so a family came to us for planning for their special need kid. Now, the biggest challenge for the family was that the expenses or the cash flow was negative. The cash flow was negative. Now, how to go ahead, planning for the future when cash flow is negative? So, and the in a typical family, like a traditional family, they were managing the household budget. Now, how you go about managing such situation? Okay, so first you separate out the special child budget. So there should be two budgets should be created. One is the family budget and one is the special need child budget. Now once the special need child budget is created, you actually come to know how much money you are spending only on the special need child and on what affairs. Now, when we were planning for such a family, so we find out that the separate budgeting, when it was done, we found out that there were a lot of money which was spent on therapies. The child was in the initial year, there was a lot of money which was spent on therapies, almost taking the 30% of the budget of the special kid. Now that was way too high in when I had the first glance I really saw that it is way too high. Almost 30% of the household budget it was taking. So why so much of therapies? So we interacted with professionals from the field, right? We had an opinion, and an opinion was given to the family that you don't need so much of therapies. You have to cut down on therapies, right? So when we cut down on therapies, this budget was reduced to 50% for the family. So within next 2 years, they were into positive cash flows, simply because the separate budgeting which was done, and we were able to get an opinion, we were able to get a view. And today, family has done already, they have formed a private trust, they have written their will, they are saving money for their child goal, they have identified the special kid requirement. Okay, so like this, I mean, budgeting is the first step. Without budgeting, you won't be able to know that how the expenses of your child would shape up in the future. And in today's scenario, also whether things are going in the right direction or not.
Right.
Okay, so this is one, and I think it's being 8 years with the family, and today, as I said, they have planned well. They've got a peace of mind because they have planned in all directions. They have done holistic planning for themselves.
Okay. Jitendra, also you keep on mentioning about an 8-step process, 8-step process in the entire planning for such families. Would you want to elaborate on that?
Yes, certainly. If you allow me, probably I'll show a chart. Through that, I would be able to explain. 1 second. Okay, I will probably start with something which is, I would say, this is the basics of. Let me share. So you can see the screen.
Yeah.
See, before I go to into 8-step process, this is the basics of planning for any family. Because whenever families think of planning, the biggest question is where they should plan, how should they start, right? And I always say that start with understanding the life stages. Because a life stages, if you have understood well, you would be able to identify the areas you have to plan. Now, how does the life stages work? We did this. You will also find this in my book. This is the basics of all planning, which has been done. So, stage now, beginning of child life until end of child life, there are 5 life stages. Stage 1 is the minority of the child. Stage 2 is when he's an adult living at home. Stage 3, when he's an adult and move to an external living environment, we're talking about a residential care. Stage 4 is the first parent death. Stage 5 would be the second parent death. And then end of the child lifetime. This is a complete child life stages. Now, at every life stages, you can identify what are the areas which are need to be planned. For example, when the child is in minority, the focus is more on diagnosis, early intervention, counseling, therapies. When you reach to an adult external living environment, then probably parents are reaching at the retirement stage. Okay, then parents' retirement, government benefits, relocation, funding childcare, the guardianship would be the main areas to work. Similarly, first parent death, then probate of will might happen, trust administration, trustees. So this way, if a parent can understand this child life stages, I think I would say 60% of the planning you have done. You have identified the areas to be planned. It's just that you have to bring down in the books. This should be the beginning.
Yeah.
Now let's come to the 8-step financial planning process. And this, we identified that these are the 8 areas or 8 ways of planning has to be done. 8 aspects which a family has to be addressed. The first beginning, and this I say that this is the first document to be written by any family. It is pen down your wishes. What do you want for your child life? His living, his earning ability, social life, the stakeholders, what do you want from them, how his care should be taken, what worked medically, what did not work. Why I'm saying is, let's take an example that a special need child family probably is going out of town, for 2 days. So, and they can't take their special, kid with them. So they would give a verbal instruction to a neighbor, right? That this is how it should be. Look, who's going to take care of the child. Now extend it to probably 48 hours or more than say 4 days, probably still can be done. What happens for the lifetime? You give a verbal instruction? No. So you want some document which can be shared with people around. Okay. And this is what you want. This is about your child. So anybody who wants to take care of agrees to take care of your child, wants to understand about your child care, they can read this document, understand. So and it's called a letter of intent. That's the first document that should be written, which tells about your wishes. The second step is future guardians. So who are going to be the people who will manage the child affairs? Right? You have to identify today, because we are not talking about parents managing the child affairs once the child reaches an adult. We are talking about future guardian. Who are they? And when you talk about future guardian, you are talking about today. Something happens today, then who? Right? It can be family members, it can be friend, relatives, charitable group if it's workout. So who are going to be that? And when you have to identify, you have to actually bring it in paper that these are the people who is going to look after my child when I am not there. Right? So second is the future guardian. Third is the child lifetime care cost, which I was talking about. How much money you would leave behind? You have to identify. Otherwise, say, I mean, openly it can be, I can say that I will leave 50 lakh, or, I have 1 crore. This would be there for the child. But is it enough? We are talking about increasing expenses. We're talking about special kid expenses, which are on a higher side. And you have your own expenses also to look around, after your retirement. So unless and until you have identified child lifetime care costs separately, you won't be able to identify whether that corpus is enough or not. Okay. 99% of the time, I always, feel it is going to fall short if you haven't identified this. Unless and until you are leaving a big legacy, which can be enough. And second is, the child lifestyle is going to be as per what you have made. When the child is living with parents, you have given a lifestyle. Okay, the expenses are going to be accordingly. The fourth step is the available support. So parents has to, when prepare for the child future, so they have to look around what all supports are available, and you have to identify. Okay, government benefits, family members coming from relatives, friends, any other. The early you do this, the better it is for the future planning. So you have to look around and see what kind of a support you will have. Then fifth, we are talking about will and trust. Okay, will by both parents, because largely in families, the way it is planned is that after me, everything will go to spouse and then it will go to the child. So both parents have to write a will and form a private trust. And there is no which one comes first and which one second. It has to be done simultaneously. If you are writing a will and you have thought about trust, do it today. We call it a living trust, that you form a trust, make it functional in your living, right? So that if any unforeseen situation comes in, the legal framework is ready and it can be funded through will. Funding of the trust, I was coming to it. How the trust is going to be funded, regular payments, lump sum corpus, when and how assets will be transferred to it. You have to plan, because if you do not have a will, the assets won't come to the trust. We know, how Succession Act works. It goes to the family member. Then how it is going to be, funded. So you have to plan funding of the trust the moment you create a trust. Then discuss with future caretakers, the guardian, the trustees, the caregiver. Give them the letter of intent you have written. Discuss with them, take their consent. Make them aware that this is a role you play. See, let's understand, nobody knows the role of a trustee. Okay, we are not trustees in a general living. So we do not understand about the role of trustee. If you have made somebody a trustee, you have to make him understand, the role of a trustee. If you have made somebody a guardian, you have to take his consent and make him understand that you are going to be a guardian for a special need child. So this is the additional responsibility you will have. And lastly, whatever you plan, please review it periodically. Plan, and I have shown the life stages, plan with the life stages. But any financial plan, if not reviewed periodically, even estate planning documents also won't work for the child future. Okay, so you have to plan. This is a simple 8-step planning process which we created, and we said ki follow this 8-step planning process, you will be able to plan holistically.
Thank you, Jitendra. I think this 8-stage process was an eye opener, and looking at it, one could really look at the entire process, and a lot of clarity emerged from this. Is there anything more you want to share before I open up for questions?
No, I think largely this 8-step planning process, covers everything, and letter of intent is what I mean. If anybody, any family start, ask me today, where should I start? I always tell them just write a letter of intent. Okay, be prepared for somebody else, to take care of your child. So right, we start with the document. The other things you then keep on planning.
So we'll open it up for questions now from the audience. If you can unmute yourself and ask questions. Some of you can also post your questions on the chat. I will take it up. This is your time to ask questions, and you have an expert in front of you, so don't miss this opportunity.
So namaste. I'm Saujana actually. I have one kid who is the Down syndrome. I just wanted to know what's the difference between a private trust and a family trust.
Okay. See, there is no difference between a private trust and a family trust. It is called a private family trust. So you have only two kind of trust, a public trust and a private trust. Public trusts are those charitable trusts which you create, which are done for charities. And then you have a private trust. A family trust comes within the private trust. So there is no difference between private trust and family trust. A private trust is called a family trust.
Suppose if the people of all the special needs can join together and can they make any trust?
So they can make that trust will be called a public trust. A private family trust have only family members as beneficiary. You cannot have uh, members beyond family as a beneficiary. The moment you add beyond family members as a beneficiary, it will be regarded as a public trust. So when all special children families are coming together, making a trust for all special need kids, it will be largely fall under a public trust.
Okay. Then can we have more than one guardian for a family trust?
See, okay, let me clarify these two roles. Now, the role of a trust and a role of a guardian are completely different. Okay. A guardian, legal guardian, can manage financial and personal affair both. Now, a legal guardian will manage whatever is there in the name of the child. Okay. So, legal guardian is allowed. A trust is going to manage the financial affairs. Whatever assets are passed on to the trust is going to manage. Now, both these roles are different. A legal guardian can be one of the trustees. One of the trustees can be legal guardian. There is no legal foundation on that. But these two roles he will play in a different capacity. Okay. So both the roles are different. They in the legal standing also. The role of a guardian, the role of a trustees are completely different.
Okay. And can you please suggest any residential care in Bangalore?
Bangalore, we have there are quite a few residential kids, residential care. In fact, there is a list which is maintained of all residential care living in India. So I will forward that list probably, or I will leave maybe mail ID, and you can just drop me a message. I'll mail you the list of all the residential care homes which are there in India. The Bangalore ones are also in the same list.
For which we need to have some lump sum amount given to that residential caretakers or that
See,
whatever that.
depends on the arrangement how you make. Okay. Yes, as a security deposit, a residential care home might ask for that this is the security deposit which we take, plus you keep on funding monthly expenses through, whichever mean, through by your personal mean
Yes.
or through the trust you do. Okay. So that's a framework which this residential care living would have set up. Okay. Now again, there are different structures. There are care homes which are coming up with a concept like cottages. So you buy a cottage in that care home. Okay, you can shift along with your child. After you, the child can continue to stay, and or the child can be shifted, to along with other childrens, and the funding can come through that cottage. So all these concepts are there in the residential care home. So it depends on what kind of a structure a residential care has.
Oh.
But we can forward the list, on that on email ID, or plus it's there in our website also. So I can share the link of the website where you can download that residential care home list.
Sure, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Hello, sir.
I have a question. Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I wanted to know, can NRI be a trustee? Is that possible or no?
Okay. Now, people residing abroad, the Indian Trust Act does not debar them from completely. See, what a Trust Act says, that if a trustee stays for more than 6 months abroad, okay, not in India, he's not in India for more than 6 months, then he should be replaced. Okay. Now, it's the structure of the trust whether that NRI can continue or not. If your decision making rests 50% with resident Indian and 50% with NRI, probably he cannot continue. But if your majority decision making rests with resident Indian, then probably NRI can still continue to be one of the trustees. So it depends on the structure, but the Trust Act clearly says that that if any trustee stays beyond more than 6 months, he should be replaced. So it depends on what is the number of trustees and who has the majority decision making.
Okay. And sir, I have one more question. How do we obtain the legal guardianship for the child?
Okay, so there is a website called National Trust. National Trust is an organization set up by the government which takes care of the legal guardianship process. So you have to apply online through National Trust. So you have to fill up an application, but before that you need a disability certificate that is mandatory for applying for the legal guardianship. And once you apply for that, once you apply online, then you get a receipt number. Okay, then you are called for an assessment by the organization. After that assessment, you are issued the legal guardianship certificate. Now that's one process without any cost. Okay, second, that's not mandatory process. If you want legal guardianship certificate much early, then you will have to go to the court process. So you have to file a petition in the court and then apply for the legal guardianship. But the easier process, the low cost process is through the National Trust.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir.
Hello, sir. In the legal guardianship, can you appoint successor? After me, this person can be in place of my as a
legal guardian. Yes, you can have successor legal guardian, no problem.
And one more thing, in trust, minimum how many people you can appoint? What's a good number?
Sorry, in the private trust.
In the family trust formation,
Hmm.
minimum how many persons you can appoint? Which is a good number?
Anywhere between 3 to 5 is always a good number.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I mean, if you can keep odd numbers, probably that is good, but it is always 2 to 5 minimum 2 is required. Okay, and we say don't go more beyond 5. So I think any number between that is good.
Jitendra, there are questions on the chat.
What?
Thing.
So
Residential-
okay,
one minute.
before it was asked what is the process of national applying. So I have sent a link for National Trust, that application directly. Okay, so if you click on this, you will go to the form for applying for the legal guardianship, right? I am just sharing one more link. Just give me 1 second. So I am sharing that, downloading that residential care home list.
Yeah.
Sir, in the meanwhile, shall I ask you?
Sure. Please go ahead.
Sir?
Yes,
Yeah,
you can go ahead.
just give
Sir,
me a second.
what
Give
is
me a
the-
second. Just give me a second.
Oh,
Okay.
no problem, no problem.
I'm just opening the website. So I'll share the link of the website, and you can directly download. Okay, you have. Yeah. So this is the link for downloading that list, and if any more discussion parents wants to do, then probably they can connect with me, so we can have a detailed discussion on what kind of a residential care setup we can give more information, because we have been interacting with a lot of these residential care homes. Yeah, please ask your question.
Yeah.
Sir, is there any minimum amount required to form a family trust?
No minimum requirement. You can even form a trust with 10,000 rupees also.
Thank you.
Sir, I have one more question. Can
Yeah.
you keep deposits, fixed deposits in bank in the name of special children, or that has some, disadvantages to it?
No, you can have any kind of investment in the name of kid. See, understand one thing. A special kid doesn't disallow any kind of an investment done on his name. You can do any investment, you can open a bank account, you can have fixed deposit. Only the structure of holding changes. So like in a minority, when you can do any investment in the name of minor child, but you will do it as a guardian. Similarly, when the child is an adult, you can do any investment on his name, and you can buy a property on his name, but it will be under guardianship. So you will be a legal guardian for that. Otherwise, it's open. You can do any financial transaction on your child name.
So do we need to do something in particular about it?
So you need a legal guardianship certificate. So if you open a bank account, if you
Okay.
start any investment, they will ask for a legal guardianship certificate if the child is more than 18 years of age. Minority, they won't ask, because then you are a natural guardian.
Sir, even shares and mutual funds.
Yes, you can do. You can invest in shares, you can invest in mutual funds. There is no legal hurdle in that.
Sir,
Can we nominate them, sir? I mean, in the nomination certificate, can we nominate them in fixed deposits and other instruments?
See, I am again saying there is no change in anything. Being a special kid doesn't mean, that something is going to change. No, everything remains the same. The only thing which you have to look at is that if you nominate them, okay, as a nominee, if they receive the money, who's going to manage that money? Okay, so you have to appoint somebody in your will, that he is the person who's going to manage the money or the investment received by your child through will. Okay, so you have to answer that question. Otherwise, being a special kid, it's much like you and me. He can be nominated, he can hold assets, you can do any kind of investment, you can do everything. But as I said, only the holding pattern will change.
sir,
Kumar, I
even
think there is a
the mother and father, if they are alive, they require a legal guardian certificate for special child?
After the child 18, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Kumar.
Hello.
Yes.
It's regarding guardianship. After you get the guardianship certificate where both the parents are the guardian when they are alive, how to can you add somebody else when they are alive, more than 2 persons, and when they are not there, how do you change the guardian?
See, when you cannot have more than 2 person, I don't think National Trust allows that. Okay, National Trust is giving a joint guardianship, but not giving guardianship to a third person. You can have him as an alternate. So in the National Trust application, generally, what National Trust asks for is an alternate guardian also. That if first person is not there, who is going to be the alternate guardian? Okay, so in the application is
That is
there, and
always
when
the
you
second parent. That is always the second parent.
yes.
But when both the parents are there, one of the parents dies, then you have to add another person. What is
So
the
you have to
process?
reapply then. You have to reapply.
Okay.
You have to reapply to the National Trust by adding that alternate person then now.
Okay. Thank you.
Sir,
I'll
can
get
legal
in touch
guardian
with you
be
later.
NRI?
Yeah, sure.
Sir,
Yeah.
can legal guardian be an NRI?
Yes, no problem. If he is a family member, mother, father, sibling, being an NRI doesn't disallow him to be the legal guardian.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, sir, I wanted to ask you one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's in case of a single parent,
Mhm.
can a relative also apply for legal guardianship?
When the parent is alive.
No, no, only a single parent. If the parents have separated and one parent is not in the picture at all.
See, largely, I mean, somebody else beyond, if parents are alive, the parents are going to be the guardian, irrespective of whoever is applying. Now, for him to be a legal guardian, if father is still alive or mother is still alive, right, it has to be a very, very strong reason, and totally depends on the court, to make him a legal guardian. It has, as I said, it has to be a very, very strong reason that why the other parent cannot be the legal guardian. Because parents are the first legal guardian in the eyes of law. So you will have to, give a very strong justification with reasoning that why can't the legal guardianship can be given to the parent. Because as I said, parents are the first, legally parents are the first, have the first right. They are the natural guardian, and court doesn't appoint anybody else if the parents are alive. Only if parents are not able to take care of the child, maybe due to health reasons, due to incapacitation, then somebody else can be appointed. But otherwise, we have court cases where parents have been appointed.
There is a question in the chat: how to open a trust? Is it like opening a bank account?
Sir,
No, it
please,
is.
I'm still asking. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, sir.
Yeah, please,
So
please
a
ask.
single parent can still apply for legal guardianship, right? Irrespective of whether the other parent wants to do it or not. A single parent can still apply for legal guardianship, right?
You can apply for legal guardianship. In fact, the
I
court
can,
will
right?
only give you the legal guardianship. No problem.
Yeah,
in
so
that.
can I do it online or I have to go through the court in that
No,
case?
you can do it online through National Trust. National Trust, National Trust is created to ease out the process, okay,
Right.
and to reduce the cost. So National Trust, you do not, you have to incur huge cost. Okay, the court, if you go to the court process, that is open to you. Probably you'll have to incur a cost, give a fees to lawyer on every hearing.
Right. Okay, all right.
Sir,
Thank you.
is it compulsory, sir?
Yeah.
Sir, is it compulsory for a single parent to make a legal guardianship?
See, it's not
Is it
about single parents or both, both parents. The law says that till the child turns 18, you are the natural guardian. You do not need a legal guardianship certificate. Okay, when the
Okay.
child is minor. Once the child turns 18, then he's an adult. So, see, if you and me, once we turns 18, we are an adult. We do not need a legal guardian. We can take decision. Similar way, the law says the child turns 18, he is an adult. But if he requires a support, then the person who's giving the support have to take a legal guardianship.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Ramamurthy, is schizophrenia child who is normal with treatment a special person requiring guardianship certificate? Yes, we have parents who have whose kids have schizophrenia, and disability certificate is given for this disability also. Yes, you can, and you can take up the the legal guardianship. But first, you need a disability certificate. If you have that disability certificate, then only you can apply for legal guardianship. Okay, but, names of residential cottage facilities for special child, we can get it. So I have given the link. You can download the list. We keep on updating on a regular basis. Residential trust care in Thane or Mumbai. I have shared the list. If it is there in the list, it would be there probably. Okay.
National Trust link contains the details of the.
The National Trust link contains the application form for applying for legal guardianship.
Okay, okay.
That is only for the when the child turns 18. Okay. Minority, there is no requirement.
Okay. So the downloads link that you've given, that contains the details of the homes, right?
The downloads I have given, that contains the link, link to download the Excel file which have the residential care list, care home list.
Okay.
Ji Ashok ji.
Yeah. Can you unmute yourself?
Sir, unmute कर लीजिए पहले, unmute.
Yeah.
Do I have to go to Delhi for taking national certificate?
For which certificate?
National legal guardian.
No. Which city you are?
I am in Chennai.
No. You don't have to. You have to just apply it online. What National Trust have done? National Trust has created local level committees, LLCs in each state. So LLC in your state will invite you for an assessment, and then they will issue the legal guardianship certificate.
At that time, the child also has to be taken?
I suppose so. They do an assessment.
Because he is living in a residential place. When they call, they will give sufficient time for us to meet them?
Yeah. You get a sufficient time. No problem.
Okay. Tamil Nadu government has issued a certificate. That is enough, or any extra certificate is required?
Tamil Nadu government has issued what kind of certificate?
That he is mentally handicapped.
Disability certificate, na?
Yes.
If it is from the government hospital, yes, it is valid.
There's a special department, they issue the certificate.
So that would be the state provision, so that's not a problem.
Yes, okay. So that is, suppose both the parents are dead,
Yeah.
then who automatically who will get a legal guardianship for them?
You write a will. You write a will.
Okay.
You write a will, name that person. On the base of that will, the same person can apply for legal guardianship certificate.
Okay.
But
thank you.
Without unless you write a will, then only he can be appointed. Otherwise, he will have to go to a similar process.
1 minute. If his NRI brothers are there, but they are not in India, they can be legal guardians in future by themselves.
Yes, they can be.
Siblings.
After parent, sibling can be the legal guardian, irrespective. If they are NRI, that's not a problem.
They don't require any will or anything like that.
No, so the only thing is that when they are applying for legal guardianship, so they will be called for an assessment. They have to be in India.
Okay, that can be done.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Regarding Chennai residential homes, can you give a list?
Sir, I have shared a link. There is a download. The list is there. I have shared the link. Stephen can share the link again.
I'll send you in your private message. Yeah.
So you can download the list. Okay, the complete list. It is for Pan India.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. This you are telling about planning for 10 years, 40 years. So the child survives for a long period.
Yes.
For that, how much corpus can we go on arranging?
Sir, that is depend that have to be calculated. Okay, that
Yes,
have to be
I can-
calculated.
Inflation is frightening. I started with 2,500 per month. Now it is 23,000 rupees per month. I have to pay in the for maintenance. So at this rate, it may be even 1 lakh rupee per month after some time.
It can be, sir. It can be inflation, can come in. So that's why I said in the beginning that lifetime care cost has to be calculated to know how much money you can accumulate and how much money you have to leave aside for the child. Because see, the residential care is dependent on the money coming from you. They are not going to arrange the money. Okay.
Correct.
So you have to ensure that enough funding is available. So that calculation has to be done, estimation has to be done, okay, based on what kind of an expenses you are bearing right now, what kind of an expenses come in the future. So an estimation has to be done. So to ease out, most of the parent queries who are looking at calculation. So what we have done is we have created an online calculator. An online calculator is there. It is called special need calculator. I am just sharing the link. So you can give the inputs in the calculator. It will show you the corpus which you require today to plan for the child. Okay.
Right.
I'm
Is
just
it
sharing the link.
Is it possible that we contribute now itself as a big lump sum amount of say 1 crore rupee to some organization and then they will take care forever?
See, it depends. You want to give to the residential care directly, you can give to, or you can leave it in the name. You can leave it in the name of the child, and that will be managed by the guardian. The guardian will keep on funding the residential care.
Correct.
So that arrangement you will have to make. Okay.
Yes.
I do not know whether residential care, all residential care takes a complete lump sum amount. I know they do not take it in the current scenario. Okay, it's very difficult for them.
Correct.
So you will have to make that arrangement. Okay.
Once we don't, even if I give the amount to the legal guardians, caretaker company, the income tax part of it will continue to be mine only, no? The interest that is earned by them.
Once you shift any assets to the child name, then you can create a separate tax filing for the child.
Okay.
Okay, so once then it's a separate tax file. Then the income tax is calculated on the child name. Then it is not in your name.
A gift given by a father to son, no? It is, they say it is your own income. You cannot show it as a child's income, like that they are telling, no?
No. So, what is the age of your child?
He is now 38 years.
No, he is an adult. If you gift anything to him, it is his income. And with special need child, you have an income tax provision that even when the child is minor, the income is not clubbed with parent. You can create a separate tax file for the child. So I don't think that doesn't happen. If you gift any asset to the child, it will be counted as a child as your son income.
Okay. That's good. Because husband, if he gives to wife, it is not allowed.
That is true. Okay. But under special, under person with disabilities, the kids with, disabilities, you have got a separate tax file.
Right.
You can create a separate tax file. That provision is there. It's there clearly in the income tax.
On contributing some amount in his account and
yes. Yes.
So, Jitendra, you have two questions here. One question is that without a disability certificate, will parents be able to apply for legal guardianship?
No. Disability certificate is mandatory. Without that, you won't be able to apply for legal guardianship.
Okay. Second question is, would you elaborate on services your firm provides towards families for planning special needs?
Okay. So we are doing both. So we have holistic financial planning, which we do, where we plan for the special need kid for other family members. We do a holistic financial planning and plan for the future. We manage investment assets in the name of the child. We manage assets for the families. We regularly do periodic reviews. So those services are there. Second, we have got a firm, also an estate planning firm called Special Need Estate Planners Private Limited, which where we create and form a trust for the special need child affairs, and also we manage those trusts. So we have started managing special need trust also. So we have end-to-end services with both these firms.
Thank you, Jitendra. I think we'll close it here now. Those who want to take it up further, Jitendra shared his website details, and I've also shared his contact number in the chat. I'll share it again. Or Jitendra, would you type your contact number on this chat?
Okay, 1 second. I am writing a mail ID. So
that is better.
So any more information on any aspect, any parents wants to know, so they can contact us, and we will be happy to provide more information on any of these aspects.
So thank you very much, Jitendra, for all your time and very insightful seminar. Thank you very much. I think